We've all been judged at some point, often by how we look or what we wear. But what if everything you thought you knew about worth and respect was wrong? Today, we're diving into a powerful story of how one simple mistake led to a life-changing lesson. Stay tuned for a tale about appearances, judgment, and the truth that runs much deeper than what meets the eye. Henry Collins, a man who had spent his entire life building a quiet empire of wealth and influence, thought he understood how the world worked. He was a man of power, a business tycoon who never flaunted his success. His wife Lucy was equally humble, using her wealth to fuel charitable causes rather than indulging in material luxury. One morning, as they sat in their office overlooking their estate, Lucy recounted an experience that left her shaken. She had gone to Greenwich Luxury Motors, a dealership known for selling the most high-end cars, to buy a car for her sister. She dressed casually as she always did, to keep things simple. But as soon as she walked in, she was brushed off by a salesman who assumed she couldn't afford the luxurious vehicle based solely on her attire. Lucy wasn't upset for herself, but for the way society often treated people based on their appearance rather than their worth. Henry listened intently, anger building in him, but also something else, a desire for change. "What's the point of having all this wealth if people still judge you based on the surface?" Lucy asked. It wasn't the first time she had faced such prejudice, but it was the first time she felt determined to do something about it. Henry, looking at his wife, realized this was about more than just buying a car. It was about making sure people saw beyond what was on the outside, beyond the designer labels and expensive cars. It was time to make a stand, not with fists or anger, but with a lesson in humility. "Let's teach them a lesson," Henry said, a plan already forming in his mind. The very next day, Henry visited the dealership, the sound of his Rolls-Royce engine humming like a promise as he pulled up. The sleek, dark blue car caught everyone's attention, especially the sales manager Sam, who greeted him with a professional smile. Sam, confident in his position, didn't yet know who this man was or why he had come. But when Henry introduced himself as the husband of Lucy Collins, everything changed. Sam's face drained of color as Henry explained how his wife had been dismissed simply because of her casual attire. The anger in Henry's voice wasn't just about the insult to his wife. It was about the system that let people like Lucy be treated like second-class citizens. Henry's words cut deep. "I came here to buy a car. Actually, several cars," he said coolly, watching as Sam struggled to keep his composure. "But now I'm not so sure this is the kind of business I want to support." Sam, desperate to keep the sale, stammered, trying to apologize. "I didn't know," he muttered. Henry wasn't interested in simple apologies. "You didn't know? You didn't even try to know. You judged my wife before she even had the chance to speak." Henry's gaze hardened. "Tell me, Sam, how many people walk through those doors and get the same treatment? How many of them don't even get the chance to prove their worth?" Sam was speechless, realizing the magnitude of his mistake. But Henry wasn't done. "Here's the deal. I'll buy the Azure for my wife's sister, but I want more than that. I want to make sure this doesn't happen again. You'll attend a volunteer event with the Collins Foundation next month, and I expect to see some changes here. No more judging by appearance. People's worth should be measured by their character, not their clothes." With that, Henry turned and walked away, leaving Sam standing in stunned silence. The power of Henry's words was undeniable. This was no longer just about a car, it was a message about seeing beyond the surface. The following month, Sam found himself standing at the Collins Foundation's gala, wearing a staff uniform instead of a suit, assisting guests and volunteering to help children with disabilities. It wasn't where he imagined himself, but there he was, surrounded by children with more strength and courage than he had ever known. He had expected the volunteer work to be easy, just a way to make amends and fulfill his obligation to keep his job. But as he worked alongside the kids, he found himself genuinely moved. These children, many of whom lived with challenges Sam could never have imagined, showed him the true meaning of resilience. As the night went on, he found himself talking to a young boy named Thomas, who had a passion for adaptive sports and basketball. Thomas had taught Sam more in a few minutes than he had learned in years of business dealings. "You know, Mr. Sam, you're kind of cool," Thomas said with a grin breaking through Sam's tough exterior. The innocence of the comment hit Sam harder than he expected. It made him realize how much he had been missing in his own life, how much he had been judging people by their appearance, never bothering to understand their story. At that moment, Sam understood what Henry and Lucy had been trying to teach him. Worth wasn't determined by how you looked or what you wore. It was about who you were on the inside. Later in the evening, Maggie Collins approached him, offering a warm smile. "How are you finding the experience, Sam?" she asked. Sam, now humbled, nodded. "It's been eye-opening, necessary." He paused before continuing. "I've learned more in this 1 month than I have in years." Maggie smiled knowingly. "I'm glad. And I hear you've been working with Mr. Mason on improving the dealership's approach to customers." Sam nodded, his voice full of sincerity. "We're not going to judge people based on their clothes anymore. Everyone deserves a chance." As the night wound down, Sam realized just how much his perceptions had changed. He had come to the event thinking it was just a way to save face, but now he was leaving with a deeper understanding of humanity. And as he helped Thomas back into his wheelchair, he found himself feeling more connected to people than ever before. It wasn't the cars or the money that mattered. It was the relationships, the people, and the respect you showed others. This was the true measure of wealth.